Well, as I stated last week, I'll be reading from the Beatitudes for this month. And today I'll be reading to you Matthew 5, and I'll be reading the blessing of 6 and 7. And then I'm going to continue to support that with a little reading from chapter 7, 24 to 39. So Jesus turned to the crowd and he offered them blessings, and today he said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. And blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Everyone, then, who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man or woman who built his or her house upon a rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew and beat upon the house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like the foolish man who built his house upon the sand. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against the houses, and it fell. And great was the fall of it." May God bless to us some understanding of each of these readings here today. Well, blessing. Blessed are you who are righteous. Often in a translation, instead of saying blessing, happy. Happy are you who are righteous. Happy are those. Righteousness means really those who are dedicated to making everything in their life dedicated to God. Though righteousness is, if I'm righteous, it's all I do, I am doing to please the Lord. Righteousness is not something that that we achieve. It's not like becoming a doctor. So-and-so is righteous, and so-and-so is a doctor, so-and-so is righteous, so-and-so is a plumber. It's not something we achieve. It's something we strive for and make part of our life. I think of Sister Teresa as a great example. Sister Teresa was not a righteous person. It's not an existence. But most of her life, from what we have read and what we've seen, she tried to dedicate to God. And the way she did that was by making others feel good. So righteousness is how we respond to people, how we respond to nature, how we respond to all the things we do in life. Last Saturday, we went to Toronto. Cheryl's son had never seen the CN Tower and or Chinatown and things like that. So my daughter, who works for a nice big hotel chain, arranged for us to have a real nice room right over top, right down on the waterfront, overlooking the island, which was quite nice. So we got there about 1, or we left the apartment about 1, and it was about a 20-minute walk to the CN Tower. So we walked to the CN Tower, we did the CN Tower thing and all that. And I know that area of Toronto pretty good, so we zigzagged and checked out shops, and we went into Chinatown, and after Chinatown we went to Kensington Market, and we did the thing. And now it's about 5:30 and we're getting tired, and we had a wonderful Chinese meal in a little restaurant where a lot of locals were going. That's how I guessed that it would be good. But now it's about 6 o'clock and we're kind of beat, and I'm a good hour and a half walk from the hotel, which really I was too beat to do, and we really didn't want. So we decided we'd take the tramway. Now, it's been a long time since I've been in Toronto. I don't know which trains go where, and as I'm walking onto the island, I see a young couple in front of me in their 20s, and the young woman, she has a bit of a town, and she has these afro braids in her hair, and they're long, and I wasn't sure if she was Caucasian or if she was African American. And as I approached her, she has this African hairstyle, and then she's dressed in a very Japanese tight kimono or whatever it is, and then she has nice big tall black boots. And he was wearing just a vest that I think he could have been John the Baptist, and a few tattoos. And they didn't have wedding rings, but what made me really sure they were a couple, they had identical nose rings. And I'm sure people wouldn't do that if you know, they weren't trying to please each other. But you know, I approached them and I said, do you know if the train goes down to Queensway and goes east? And they were so kind. They said, absolutely, yes, that's the train we're getting on. Don't get on the next one. They explained the whole route and they told us to follow them. And you see, that's an act of righteousness. It's not about how they were dressed, whether they had tattoos and nose rings. They wanted to please, and they cared about the people that just approached them. They made us feel good, and they made sure we knew we were going where we were going. That's righteousness. That's being lived out. We all know that a small word can go a long ways in life, but if you're like me, you forget how far it can go. We went out for supper to Boston Pizza a couple of weeks ago, and we were seated near the doors where they go in the kitchen. And I don't know if somebody spilt something on the floor on the way in, but the next young woman on her way in, I saw the dishes going up, and she came down and landed on her thigh, which must have hurt. And the dishes smashed all over, and immediately the manager happened to be in that area, and he went and he stopped her from getting up too quickly, and then he helped her up, and he was so kind, and he kicked the dishes out of the way so she wouldn't slip on them and trip on them, and he told her to go and take a little bit of a break, and treated her with such care and tenderness. I was really impressed. And so when he came by my table a little while later, I gestured to him, and he came over, and I said, you know, I really appreciate, as a patron here, the way you treated your employee, and you weren't worried about how many dishes she broke, and you cared about her, and etc. And you know, he was so grateful. It was beyond me how grateful he was. Every time he came by our table, he wanted to make sure we had water, everything we needed. And as we were leaving, he was near the back of the restaurant. He came running down the aisle, and he shook my hand, and he thanked me. And it just dawned on me, you know, we don't say, you know, we think people are bosses or managers, so we don't have to appreciate them. And a kind word, how much that guy must have appreciated the fact that I thanked him. And we don't say thank you enough. That's our righteousness. He treated his waitress with extraordinary righteousness. A couple of kind words, which I didn't think of as being righteous, but were pleasing and really lifted that man up. That's righteousness in the making. Come across a great article when I was in Toronto about an elephant sanctuary that was started in 1995 by Scott Blaze. He got so sick and tired of seeing elephants discarded from circuses and all these little zoos around the world. They get sore feet, tuberculosis, or they get shot or whatever. And so he found some property in Tennessee, about 3 times the size of the Toronto Zoo. He spent his money and dedicated his time to separating this property into 3 sections so the Asian and the African and the other elephants wouldn't be mixed. Built big walls so that people can't see them and torment them. And this volunteers came out of the woodwork to help, and digging with their own sweat holes, donating money, and putting up these walls and separating. He went to the local vet who didn't know anything about elephants, but dedicated his life now to studying what elephants need and medicines. And people started to come, and he was almost broke, and he thought he was going to have to lose it all. And he went to the mailbox one day, and he opened a check for $10,000. He said he cried. His hope came back. And see, these are all acts of righteousness. People aren't righteous, but when you're doing good, you're doing acts of righteousness. And that's what the world is about. And that's what God says. Happy are you that are doing for others. Because when you're doing for others, you're pleasing God. It's not all that complicated. Now, sometimes to understand one thing, looking at the opposite can be helpful. I couldn't help, as we all saw the news this week, the mother injecting her 9-year-old with Botox because she wants her to be a beauty queen. Can you imagine? This is not righteousness. This is self-righteousness, which is the opposite to righteousness. Self-centeredness or narcissism. When everything is done for us, and not to be rude to the woman, you can see she's not going to win any beauty contest. And like so many parents, you know, a father who never made it in hockey drives his kid night and day to be a hockey star or a basketball player. A mother who never was a ballerina drives her kid to be a ballerina, signs them up for all kinds of gymnastics. And we're living our life out of our kids. That's self-righteousness. When it's all about us, it's self-righteousness. I knew a father and son many years ago, and when they were younger, they were inseparable. Oh, they had such pride in each other. The father had been in the military, and the son was so proud of his badges and wanted to be like him, and at 16, left school and joined the army, and his father signed the papers because he was too young, and he got into the Navy actually, and he did so well, and they were both really good people and always reaching out. But somehow, when the son, I don't know all the details, but mid-30s, the father and son had been involved in some business deal that went awry, and they both accused each other of shafting the other one out of something like $10,000 or $15,000. We're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for the next 25 years, they didn't speak. They made amends on the father's dying bed. That's self-righteousness. That's so much pride that we can't reach out to others. You know, I'm not going to give in and say this doesn't matter. Maybe we both made a mistake. I'm right, you're wrong. We see that so much in the church between ministers and the chair of the board.